If you want to protect your eyesight as you get older, don't look at your eye drops. Don't look at your sunglasses. Look at what's sitting in your fruit bowl tonight. There's one fruit that quietly does two things almost nothing else on the planet does at the same time. It feeds the exact pigments your retina is built from, and it does its best work when you eat it in the evening instead of the morning. Most people eat it at breakfast, if they eat it at all, and they're missing the whole point. Here's what most people believe about eye health. It's genetic, it's inevitable, and there's nothing you can really do about it until you need reading glasses, or, worse, until a doctor says the word macular degeneration. But after years of digging through the actual research on diet and vision, I've found something that contradicts that fatalistic story. Your retina is not a passive piece of tissue waiting to wear out. It is a living structure that is actively built every single day out of specific pigments and nutrients that come from your food. If you don't eat them, your eyes simply don't have the raw material to protect themselves. And one fruit happens to be one of the most concentrated, practical sources of exactly what your eyes need, while also setting you up for the deep, restorative sleep your eyes use to repair themselves overnight. Hi, I'm Dr. Chester. I've spent years looking at how nutrition intersects with chronic disease, and eye health is one of the most overlooked corners of that conversation. We talk endlessly about screens and blue light and eye strain, but almost nobody talks about what's actually sitting in the back of your eye, holding the line against damage. Today, I want to walk you through the fruit that does that better than almost anything else, why eating it specifically in the evening matters, the exact amount that's been studied, and the mistakes that quietly cancel out its benefits. In this video, you'll learn what's actually sitting in the center of your retina right now, and why most people are running dangerously low on it without knowing. The two plant pigments your eye cannot make on its own and has to get entirely from food, and why one particular fruit is one of the richest, most balanced sources of both. Why eating this fruit in the evening, specifically about an hour before bed, lines up with real sleep research and may matter for how your eyes recover overnight. The exact serving size used in actual published studies, so you're not guessing. And the most common mistakes that quietly waste this fruit's benefits before they ever reach your eyes. Quick favor before we get into it. If you've watched a few of my videos already and never hit subscribe, take 2 seconds and do it now. It's free and it helps this kind of evidence-based health content reach more people, instead of getting buried under hype. Thank you. To understand why this fruit matters, you need to understand something most people have never been told. There are two pigments sitting in the very center of your retina right now, and your body cannot manufacture either one of them. They have to come from your diet every single day, or that part of your eye runs on empty. Think of your retina like the back wall of a camera, the part that actually captures the image. Right in the middle of that wall is a small yellow spot called the macula, and that yellow color isn't decoration. It comes from a dense concentration of two plant pigments, lutein and zeaxanthin. These are carotenoids, the same family of compounds that make carrots orange and tomatoes red. Except these two specific ones have a unique property. They get absorbed from your gut, travel through your blood, and then deposit themselves directly into the macula and the lens of your eye, almost nowhere else in the body in such concentration. Lutein, zeaxanthin, and a related compound called mesozeaxanthin absorb blue visible light, which protects the eye's delicate structures from a particularly reactive and damaging form of light exposure. Blue light is short-wavelength, high-energy light, and when it hits the light-sensitive cells of your retina unfiltered, it drives a process called photooxidation, essentially light-triggered cellular damage. Lutein and zeaxanthin act like an internal pair of sunglasses sitting directly on the tissue that needs protecting most, filtering that light before it can do harm, and mopping up the free radicals that light exposure generates along the way. To put a number on just how reactive this wavelength is, research on light-induced retinal damage has found that blue light around 440 nanometers requires roughly 100 times less energy to cause photoreceptor damage than orange light at 590 nanometers. That's not a minor difference. That's 2 orders of magnitude. Your retina is sitting there every single day, absorbing a wavelength of light that is uniquely capable of harming it. And the only built-in filter standing between that light and your photoreceptors is the pigment density you've managed to build up from your diet. There's no surgical implant or supplement that replaces this. It is either sitting in your macula because you've fed it consistently, or it isn't there at all. Here's the part that should concern you. Researchers studying living retinas using a non-invasive measurement called macular pigment optical density have consistently found that low levels of this pigment correlate strongly with a higher risk of macular degeneration. In plain English, the less of this yellow pigment you have sitting in your macula, the more exposed and vulnerable that tissue is. This is where most diet advice quietly fails people. Everyone's heard, eat your leafy greens for eye health, and that's not wrong, but it's incomplete. Dark green leafy vegetables are genuinely rich in lutein, often 15 to 47% of their total carotenoid content, but they are very low in zeaxanthin, typically only 0 to 3%. You can eat spinach every day and still be running a real deficit on one of the 2 pigments your macula needs most. And this isn't a small distinction. Within the macula itself, the 2 pigments aren't distributed evenly. Zeaxanthin concentrates most heavily right at the very center, the spot responsible for your sharpest, most detailed vision, the part you use to read fine print or recognize a face across a room. Lutein spreads out more broadly across the surrounding retina. So a diet that's lutein-rich but zeaxanthin poor is, in a sense, protecting the suburbs while leaving the city center underdefended. You need a food source that brings you both, in reasonable proportion to each other, not just one pigment in isolation. So where do you get a fruit that has a meaningful, balanced amount of both? This is where the fruit at the center of this video comes in. Kiwi. Mechanism 1. A genuinely balanced carotenoid source. In a well-known nutrient mapping study that analyzed dozens of fruits and vegetables for their lutein and zeaxanthin content, kiwifruit was identified as one of the foods containing substantial amounts of both lutein and zeaxanthin together in the 30 to 50% range of total carotenoid content, alongside grapes, spinach, orange juice, and squash. That balance matters. You're not just topping up one pigment while neglecting the other. You're feeding both halves of your macula's defense system in a single piece of fruit. Mechanism 2. The vitamin C density most people completely underestimate. A single large kiwi can contain more vitamin C than an equivalent amount of orange, gram for gram. And that vitamin C has been linked to a lower risk of cataracts. Vitamin C isn't just an immune support nutrient. The fluid inside your eye, called the aqueous humor, actually maintains one of the highest vitamin C concentrations of any tissue in the human body, specifically because the eye is under constant oxidative stress from light exposure and needs a steady antioxidant supply to keep the lens clear and prevent the protein clouding that becomes a cataract. Mechanism 3. Kiwi doesn't just deliver lutein and zeaxanthin. It delivers backup. Beyond lutein and zeaxanthin, kiwi brings vitamin E and a range of other antioxidant compounds that work alongside those carotenoids, which matters because oxidative damage in the eye isn't caused by a single pathway. Free radicals are unstable molecules generated as a normal metabolic byproduct, but also from outside sources like UV radiation and pollution, and they damage cells throughout the body, including the delicate tissue of the eye. A single antioxidant can only do so much. A fruit that arrives with several different antioxidant compounds working in combination gives your eyes a broader shield. It's worth knowing that this general approach, combining multiple antioxidants and nutrients rather than isolating just one, is exactly the strategy that large-scale clinical research has already validated in a different form. Major eye disease studies looking at micronutrient supplementation found that a specific combination of nutrients reduced the risk of progression from intermediate to advanced macular degeneration in study participants. The headline finding wasn't that one single nutrient worked miracles. It was that a coordinated mix of antioxidants and minerals working together measurably slowed disease progression in people who already had early signs of it. That's the same underlying principle kiwi offers in food form. Not one isolated compound doing all the work, but a cluster of nutrients supporting the same tissue from several different angles at once. Now here's where this gets genuinely interesting, and where most nutrition videos stop short. It's not just what's in kiwi, it's when you eat it. There's a real, published line of research, separate entirely from the eye health studies, that has tested what happens when people eat kiwi specifically in the evening, close to bedtime, rather than at breakfast like most of us default to. And the implications for your eyes may be just as important as the implications for your sleep. Here's the logic. Your retina does an enormous amount of repair work overnight. The light-sensing cells in your eye, called photoreceptors, shed and regenerate part of their outer segments on a roughly 24-hour cycle, and a huge portion of that renewal happens during sleep, when your eyes are closed and not actively being bombarded with light and oxidative stress. If your sleep is short, fragmented, or poor quality, that nightly repair window gets compressed. You are quite literally giving your retina less time to do its maintenance work. Think about what your eyes go through during a typical waking day. Screens, sunlight, fluorescent lighting, the constant low-grade oxidative stress of simply seeing. None of that stops until your eyes close. Sleep is the only reliable window your retina gets to catch up on cellular housekeeping without new damage being layered on top in real time. So when researchers talk about sleep quality and eye health in the same sentence, they're not stretching to make a connection. They're describing two ends of the same biological process. Damage accumulates while you're awake and exposed to light, and repair concentrates while you're asleep and protected from it. This is where the timing of kiwi becomes interesting. In a controlled study, 24 adults with self-reported sleep problems ate 2 kiwifruit 1 hour before bedtime every night for 4 weeks. Their sleep was tracked using both wrist actigraphy and sleep diaries, and the researchers found associations with improvements in sleep quality, how quickly people fell asleep, total sleep time, and overall sleep efficiency. The proposed reason isn't just one single compound. Kiwifruit contains measurable amounts of melatonin, the hormone most directly involved in regulating your sleep-wake cycle, alongside serotonin, which plays a role in initiating and maintaining sleep through the night. Serotonin also appears to interact with melatonin itself, and research suggests that raising serotonin levels can, in turn, help raise melatonin levels, creating a kind of supportive loop rather than a single on-off switch. Researchers have since taken this further to understand the actual mechanism rather than just the outcome. A more recent crossover study had men with both good and poor sleep quality eat either fresh kiwi, dried kiwi powder, or a water control alongside their evening meal, then measured urinary markers of serotonin and melatonin metabolism afterward. That research found changes in the urinary breakdown products of both serotonin and melatonin after kiwi consumption, suggesting the fruit may genuinely be influencing those specific pathways, not just correlating with better sleep by coincidence. This research has even extended to elite athletes, who are about as serious as it gets about measuring recovery. A study examining elite athletes specifically pointed to kiwifruit's melatonin content as relevant to circadian rhythm regulation, getting to sleep and staying asleep most easily around the natural onset of melatonin release, alongside its serotonin and antioxidant content possibly suppressing inflammatory markers tied to poor recovery. So here's the picture this builds. Kiwi feeds your retina the specific pigments and antioxidants it uses for daily defense against light damage. And eaten in the evening, it may also support the depth and quality of the sleep your eyes use to carry out repair. You're not choosing between an eye health food and a sleep health food. The evening timing may let one fruit support both processes at once. To be clear, this sleep research is still an early and growing field, and most of these studies are small. But it's a low-risk, food-first habit with genuinely promising early evidence behind it, not just folklore. Let me walk you through exactly how to do this. How much kiwi and when? The sleep studies that showed real results used 2 kiwifruit, eaten roughly 1 hour before bed. That's the dose that's actually been tested, so it's the one worth replicating rather than guessing at your own number. For eye health specifically, even a more modest 1 to 2 kiwis a day has been associated with a meaningful intake of vitamin C and other nutrients that support vision. So the evening serving doubles as your eye health dose for the day, not an addition on top of one. How to eat it? Eat the whole fruit, flesh included, and don't peel away more than you have to. Some of the antioxidant and fiber content concentrates near the skin, and the gold kiwi and green kiwi varieties both carry meaningful lutein and zeaxanthin, so either works. Slice it in half and scoop it with a spoon if the fuzzy skin bothers you. You don't need to eat the skin itself to get the benefit. Don't cook it. Kiwi doesn't require cooking, and that's actually a feature, not a limitation, since folate is destroyed by heat, and kiwi's folate content stays fully intact when it's eaten raw. This is a fruit that's already in its most useful form, straight out of the fridge. Pair it thoughtfully. Lutein and zeaxanthin are fat-soluble carotenoids, meaning your gut absorbs them more efficiently in the presence of a small amount of dietary fat. A handful of nuts alongside your evening kiwi, or a kiwi blended into a small bit of Greek yogurt, can meaningfully improve how much of that pigment your body actually takes up rather than passes through. Give it a real runway before judging it. Because this works through gradual pigment accumulation and gradual sleep architecture changes, rather than an instant effect, it helps to think in terms of a 4-week trial rather than a few nights. Keep it boring and repeatable. Same 2 kiwis, same rough time before bed, most nights of the week. The studies that found real effects on sleep and pigment density weren't testing occasional or sporadic use. They were testing daily consistency over a full month. Now, let me cover the mistakes that quietly undercut everything we just talked about. Mistake 1. Treating this as a morning-only fruit. Most people who eat kiwi eat it at breakfast and never think about it again. There's nothing wrong with morning kiwi for general nutrition, but if your specific goal includes the sleep and repair angle, the timing is the entire point. Eating it at 7 a.m. instead of an hour before bed misses the mechanism we just walked through completely. Mistake 2. Expecting a single serving to fix things overnight. Macular pigment density builds up gradually as lutein and zeaxanthin accumulate in your retina over weeks, not hours. Studies tracking kiwifruit consumption and macular pigment optical density have found that people who ate kiwi regularly over time showed meaningfully higher pigment levels compared to those who didn't, which tells you this is a consistency game, not a one-night intervention. The same applies to the sleep research. The actigraphy study ran for 4 full weeks, not 4 days. Mistake 3. Relying on supplements instead of the whole fruit. You'll find lutein and zeaxanthin capsules everywhere, and they're not useless, but you lose everything that comes packaged alongside them in the actual fruit. The vitamin C, the vitamin E, the fiber, the folate, the serotonin and melatonin content, and whatever else researchers haven't fully characterized yet. Eye researchers themselves generally recommend eating foods containing high levels of lutein and zeaxanthin, rather than taking isolated supplements, specifically because those foods carry hundreds of other phytochemicals that are likely contributing to the benefit alongside the headline nutrients. A capsule gives you one ingredient. The fruit gives you the whole formula nature already worked out. Mistake 4. ignoring everything else and expecting one fruit to do all the work. Kiwi is a genuinely strong, evidence-backed addition to an eye health routine, but it is not a substitute for the basics. A diet broadly rich in fruits and vegetables, combined with eating fatty fish like salmon, sardines, or mackerel a couple of times a week, is independently associated with a decreased risk of macular degeneration. And if you already have signs of eye disease, that's a conversation for an ophthalmologist, not a YouTube video. Think of kiwi as a smart, well-supported addition to the foundation, not a replacement for it. Mistake 5. Skipping regular eye exams because your diet feels handled. Macular pigment and good nutrition lower risk. They don't eliminate it, and they can't catch changes early the way a dilated eye exam can. Even in structured research settings, tracking macular degeneration involves direct retinal imaging and measured pigment density, not just dietary recall, which should tell you something about how seriously the people studying this take actual eye exams alongside nutrition. Here's what I want you to walk away with. Your eyes are not just along for the ride as you age. The macula is an actively maintained structure, built day after day out of pigments that only come from what you eat. And most people are simply not feeding it the raw materials it needs. That's not a genetic sentence. That's a gap you can close starting tonight. Let's lock in everything we covered. 1. Your macula depends on two plant pigments, lutein and zeaxanthin, that your body cannot produce on its own. Low levels of these pigments are consistently linked to higher macular degeneration risk. 2. Kiwi is one of the few common fruits that delivers both lutein and zeaxanthin together in meaningful amounts, unlike leafy greens, which are rich in lutein but nearly empty of zeaxanthin. 3. Kiwi's vitamin C content rivals or exceeds citrus, and vitamin C is linked to lower cataract risk. 4. Eating 2 kiwi fruit about 1 hour before bed is the specific, studied protocol behind documented improvements in sleep quality, sleep onset, total sleep time, and sleep efficiency. And that nightly sleep window is exactly when your retina carries out its repair work. 5. Don't cook it, eat it whole, and pair it with a small amount of fat to help absorb the fat-soluble carotenoids. 6. This is a consistency habit measured in weeks, not a one-time fix. And it supplements, rather than replaces, fatty fish, leafy vegetables, and regular eye exams. Your vision in your 60s and 70s isn't simply handed to you or taken from you by genetics alone. It's built, slowly, by what you choose to put on your plate. And tonight is as good a night as any to start. If this was useful, do 2 things for me. Share it with someone in your life who stares at a screen all day, or who's worried about their vision as they get older. Most people have genuinely never connected the dots between an evening fruit and their long-term eye health. And if you want more food-first, evidence-grounded breakdowns like this one, instead of vague wellness advice, subscribe and check out my other videos on antioxidants and sleep recovery, linked right here on screen.